Okay, you know, as always, I'm having a wonderful chat, and I hope we're going to get to some very, very interesting,
I
fun,
hope so. I
fun
hope that.
sub-basements. I am speaking with a pianist composer, and we can say this with great certainty, pianist composer Tamara Konstantin. We're talking about her 2019 Naxos CD release, Reverie, music for solo piano and chamber ensemble. This is your second CD, right? There was an earlier CD, Reflections, yeah?
That's indeed, yes. First the inflections and the second.
Inflections, sorry, and now Reverie. And just to kind of get these credits out of the way, you are aided because we've got music for piano trio, we have music for piano and cello, we have music for solo piano, of course, and with violin. But this will be tough. I didn't speak to you before. I'll try and pronounce these properly. But you are, of course, performing piano on some of these pieces we're going to discuss, but you're also aided on some of the pieces by Mark Werter. Am I close?
So, yep, yep.
Okay, and cellist Jessian Lloyd Webber,
Lloyd Webber, yes,
wife
she's
of,
Julian Lloyd
yeah,
Webber's wife.
of the
She's an
composer.
amazing cellist. I'm very, very lucky that I had an opportunity to meet her and work with her. And we not only work, but we become very good friends, and it really helps.
That's the beauty of chamber music. You become really
Yeah.
either
Uh,
enemies for life or very good friends.
okay, yeah.
And then violinist Yu Mien Sun. Uh,
You mean, yes.
Wonderful. So you have you have the what do you have? You have the backs of these wonderful artists on this CD. We're talking about 16 original, and I put them in tiny little parentheses, original works, uh, including two piano sonatas, your third and fourth piano sonata, cello
Yeah.
sonata, lovely, lovely, lovely piece, and an assortment of descriptive piano pieces from your part of the UK, Dorset, Dorsetshire, all that good stuff. The country, if I can say, just sort of generally, the beautiful countryside, the classic rolling countryside of the UK, and you see it and feel it in all this music. Tamara Konstantin calls herself a miniaturist, and these lovely Dorsetshire sketches are exactly that.
So,
Even the cello sonata, the piano sonatas, they're short-ish, you know.
yeah, they are not very long. Yes, I always thought that you don't want to bore your audience in some way, so you want them to have an interest in your pieces, and just you also I also try to create very melodic pieces that the people who love to listen to my music, they remember and they sort of enjoy the melodies. So
That's right, and we're going to discuss that whole aspect in great detail momentarily because we are talking, most of the compositions on this CD are 2013, 2014, 2016. They're very recent, if I'm reading the book correctly. And yet you are fully and totally in love with, enchanted by, mesmerized by the 19th century and 19th century romanticism. Your voice is very unique. I heard immediately that you understand uh, not only romantic literature, but you know how to compose, and we're going to talk about that one. That apparently was a bit of a surprise at some point in your life. You know, you were raised as a prodigy, right? I mean, you know, the great conservatory in Tbilisi. I hope I'm pronouncing it properly, in Georgia, and you
I
went through a certain level, and then apparently, what? Tell us the story. You did all this study, so there's that background, that tremendous musical background from that part of the world, and then I guess you fell in love. What? Tell me this.
well, um, like you said, that I had very good musical upbringing. I was studying in a special music school for gifted children, and it was exceedingly difficult to get in that school because it was only one school in whole republic. And during my studies, I was playing with the symphonic orchestra, did several solo concerts, graduated musical academy, and then I gave up music. But I would say that I gave up music only temporarily because um, after some years, I still I went back to music, and at last I'm doing something which I absolutely adore and I love. But meanwhile, during my break from music, I had a very interesting career because I was working as a TV presenter in Georgia. I was first female political commentator on Georgian television, and it was also very challenging.
That was during the
Um,
Soviet
During
influence, yes?
Soviet times, and it was during Gorbachev times, and it was quite interesting period in the sort of Soviet history.
I thought you turned that phone off.
Oh no, it's the clock. I'm
Oh, the
afraid.
clock. Mine will go off shortly also. So anyway,
I'm
proceed.
afraid
Sorry.
it's the time. And then I moved to England. I met my husband in Georgia, and so uh, gave up completely everything, moved to England, and I was very fortunate to have an opportunity to start to work in oil business. And for 23 years, I worked in this industry. Traveled a lot, learned a lot, but music was always part of my existence, and I couldn't imagine my life without music. But then I accidentally, about 6 years ago, I discovered that I could write a music, and it was absolute incredible revelation in my life that I have never ever written even a bar of music of my own. So yeah, it was very interesting
You know,
times.
it makes your story the more fascinating because I'm a conductor by training. I'm more or less retired now. All that good stuff. Music critic, as you know. Oh, by the way, our interview, my review of the CD, all of this is going to go up at performingartsreview.net in a bit. But I tried my hand at composition and was absolutely, utterly, hopelessly bad.
Yeah.
You clearly, I mean, from this city, it's just a natural. I'm speaking about the complexities of your writing. Again, it's all in a very sort of an homage to romanticism in general. Beautiful, beautiful music, and also working with tunes from great composers of this period. We're going to speak about it, but for you to be able to sit down and cold turkey. Uh, figure that will write a trio, for example. Surely there were pieces that went into the wastebasket. Come on, the first piece you
Yeah.
went, ugh.
Well, no, funny enough, the first piece I wrote, it was just my first sonata, and then it was like encouraged me to write. It just, funny enough, I would say that I started to run straight away rather than walk.
Mm.
It's something very bizarre, I would say, and also so exciting that since I started to compose, music is constantly in my head. It's just so inspiring. So
And by
my
the
life
way,
has meaning now.
let's give thank you. Let's make sure everyone heard that your life has meaning now. And this is the
Yeah.
creative element that we all have, really, everyone out there. In my old age now, anything that is even remotely creative, no matter whether I hate it or like it, I'm speaking of a piece, a painting by some, let's say,
Yeah.
even amateur, that is worth celebrating, any kind of creative act. In your case, you've had the training, you apparently just slipped right into it beautifully, thanks to your conservatory training. I can't think of any other way that you could possibly write what I hear, which is beautifully structured. All the harmonic movement is where it should be and how it should move. Everything is in place, as opposed to people that don't quite have that training or that natural skill, which you clearly have, where things get lost a little bit. Let's put it that way. But I want you to give me the anecdote. Here you are. You leave Georgia. You're in the UK. You meet your husband. You have a life. You live an entirely different uh, life.
So,
Uh, Still, music is there, but all of us in music have had our ups and downs, and there are times when music in my earlier years just had to be put aside while I tried to pay the rent, stuff like that.
yeah.
But tell us, because it's in your note and it's so charming, because we need to give credit where credit is due, and that is your husband. You know what I mean? Go.
Well, I have to say, now I'm with my second husband.
Fair
So,
enough. We live a long
so
time, you know.
well, absolutely. And well,
Which one was
I
it? One or
now
two that did this anecdote?
no. There's my husband, current husband, was the one who is absolutely supportive, and
Hmm.
thanks to him, I would say that I discovered that I can write. And it was an amazing story when we went on a holiday to Canada, and we were attending the organ recital. And during the concert, the performer was playing wonderful pieces like Bach's and Sons, and then he played one contemporary piece, which it was not my taste. Let me put
You
it.
put that very discreetly.
Yeah, so I didn't like it. Let me put it this way.
Oh.
And I said to my husband, I said, darling, do you know, even I could write better than this. Honestly, I was absolutely joking. I could never, ever, ever imagine that I could write anything. And he said to me, so why not try? And it somehow triggered in me that why not I would try. And indeed, we came back and I tried, and he's been absolute wonderful, and he's so supportive. And actually, he's my first audience. Whatever I write, I always play to him, and he's got very good ear. He used to play saxophone, and he understands music very well. So I'm very grateful that I have a wonderful husband who really, really appreciates and supports me.
Wonderful. And let's all take note. All we need is a little encouragement. That's
Yes,
all
that's
we need. Again, that's why I look for every possibility to be encouraging to everyone who is in any tiny, small way creative. You're way beyond small way creative. We're going to speak specifically to this CD in a minute. But we need this on the planet. We need creativity.
true.
We need
True.
art on the planet. It's really getting pretty awful out there. So I salute you, and I also salute just this idea again from an earlier time, giving it up for those many years, and you know, you knew, you had to have somewhere deep down known that you were, some part of your heart was not not being fulfilled. Something, because the writing now is absolutely fabulous. You know, we mentioned. Can you put a? I think I'm not sure whether I mentioned this on air, but we talked about, you know, I have this thing about ships, and I've tried to trace it back way back, because I really honestly I look at all my ship pictures and wonder. But I've spent
Mhm.
years trying to figure it all out, and I think I have. And there was a moment when I used to look through. We're talking H4, H5, Courier and Ives, the wonderful
Mhm.
publication that had so many plates, you know, of clipper ships and great ships, the Great Eastern, the ship that laid the cable. So I think, you know, somehow or other that, and I now know very, very well that young minds really are the most impressionable. Do you have anything in your head about something you were age something, or what is this romantic thing? It's not just that you're a pianist and you love the repertoire. Is there anything deeper?
I don't know. I always think that it's something you were born, probably you have to be born with this, and it's at some stage it comes out from your system. So I cannot describe it. It's very difficult phenomenon. I would say that yes, I'm definitely very into romanticism, and all my pieces are very melodic. And I would say that in some ways you even can say it's a little bit old-fashioned, but I think you always have the audience for different type of music. You people who love jazz, people love so completely contemporary music, and who people classical music. So it's I don't know.
Well, here's what I know. As I've said ad nauseum in this interview, you are very clear about what you're doing, and you understand very well how to move note to note to note. This all by itself is not as easy as it sounds. I mean, we're talking harmony, we're talking counterpoint, all of this, and so I'm assuming that this your training in Georgia at the conservatory there, and maybe even an emphasis on romantic literature when you're playing. Your pianism is magnificent. You're a superb pianist. So,
Oh, thank you.
was it that kind of repertoire that you were exposed to a lot as a younger pianist?
I, I think this kind of repertoire really touches my heart, and probably that's why I'm writing, inclined to write the music into this style. Um, yes, I would say that my upbringing definitely influencing my today's the way how I'm writing. Um, but I would like to sort of probably um, do a little bit more experimenting and try to write a little bit more difficult. I'm now working on my third CD, and a couple of pieces I'm writing there are a little bit deviated from romanticism to try to have touch of little bit of modern music rather than stepping back to the like.
And let me just say, in terms of this particular CD, Reverie, there are. I hear. You're not a stick in the mud. I hear 20th century harmonies sneak in very discreetly here and there, and I just wonder if it's also a natural progression as you grow even more into your composition lifestyle. I mean, this comfort zone, whether you will play, as you've just indicated, play a little bit more now. Yeah.
I would. It's very interesting to for me to explain this thing that I never analyze what I'm writing. Writing what I don't give a structure to the piece. I just simply, for me, it is more difficult to start something. Once you start, then the melody evolves. So I don't think about any kind of like. Um, Parameters or
Mm.
structures. I simply follow the melody which comes into my head. And I don't analyze it. I just write, and it simply works. And sometimes I'm surprised, even without any kind of any knowledge of the compositions, any knowledge of how it should be structured. I simply write. So
Kara, I've spent all this time praising your structure, your harmonic development, all that good stuff, and you're clearly just a natural. In other words, things just
it's
flows.
something probably
You write it
inside
down, and then
my.
it's done, and you step away. And I'm just saying, from my point of view, listening to your music for the first time, again, uh, highly romantic, beautiful, beautiful tunes. There are so many lovely little miniatures, as you say, but descriptive. You're not only in love with the romantic period, you're in love with Dorset, with that
I,
gorgeous
I am
Dorsetshire, that wonderful county in Britain. But the idea that these things happen naturally, it's sort of like I feel like you've been with like you. We are all so lucky that you escaped anonymity. I think is yeah. I mean, for a while there was anonymity, and we are all. In particular, now that I've had a chance to listen to your music, I'm indebted to you for breaking that, and I
okay.
encourage with you my conversation with you and my conversation with so many others who have had these moments, or these years even, where things were put aside, where the true love and the true spirit was put aside, and to come back to it. That's the big story here. I think it's just magnificent. So I salute you. Let alone just the natural talent you clearly have. If you are, if because I look for whether I'm hearing amateurism. I'll just be frank. I look for whether I'm hearing amateurism when I hear and I'm given CDs by musicians who haven't really you have had the training, but not the thorough training. So just the cynic in me looks for where are the flaws, where do things kind of not move forward or whatnot. It's not there in anything of yours at all of these pieces. And again, your use of other instruments, it's not easy to write for piano, fiddle, and cello. It just doesn't happen. It's about color and balance and voice leading and all the rest. So I salute you and salute you. Let's talk about one or two of these lovely pieces. Again, I think it's 16 pieces altogether, including a four-movement piano sonata, a three-movement piano sonata, a cello sonata, charming cello sonata. That can be played as one movement, can't it? No, it's in three movements, but they run together.
And yes, it's played by Jacqueline Lloyd Webber beautifully.
Yeah, beautifully. And it's a very beautiful piece. I see a lot of these as lovely encore pieces. Everybody complains there's no music out there. I'm talking at the professional level. There's a ton of fabulous music out there I'm speaking to pianists, for your programming. Tons of it. And I can also say I figured I knew the repertoire pretty well until I started reviewing CDs.
Yeah.
And then the repertoire flew at me. There's just a huge repertoire, including these lovely pieces of yours. So I hope people will take note and give a listen and see if some of these lovely pieces. There's never going to be a disappointment from the audience point of view.
Thank you.
Let's look at give me a little overview of one of the lovely pieces. It's called Moonlight Rhapsody for piano and cello from 2015. Tell me how you put this together, because we've got some Beethoven in there, yeah?
Yes, we have Beethoven, definitely. When I was young, obviously I was playing Moonlight Sonata, and let me tell to our listeners that Moonlight Rhapsody is based on Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. So I used the same method, if you could say, same follow footsteps of Charles Francois Gounod, who created his famous Ave Maria based on Bach's Prelude No. 1. So instead of actually, I was quite tempted to put on Moonlight Sonata also the soprano, but the melody was quite, I would say, the complex, that it was quite difficult to put words. So I decided to put a melody on the top, on the existing Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, the cello part. It's completely like individual like part, which comes very, I would say, harmonically quite well with existing piece. And like I said, and again, Jacqueline Lloyd Webber is playing beautifully her part. And I would say that this is my favorite piece in this CD, and I would say that my favorite composition. But I also did similar thing on the Bach's Prelude No. 1. And instead of putting soprano like Gounod did, I put cello and violin and created my own trio. I can say that it is not an easy thing to create something on the top, on existing masterpieces. And firstly, it is quite difficult because they are such a well-known pieces that if you do something not beautiful, it will be a terrible composition. So at the end, I was very pleased how it worked out. And even now, for my third CD I'm working, I've got two famous composers also. I took their two pieces. I can say one is Donizetti and one is Chopin. So, and I creating similar thing, taking original pieces and then putting on the top my melodies. So,
by the way, that's a very good interest for you to pursue, because it's a bit of crafting. It's a bit of also
Yeah.
of being original around an original, the original, if you get my drift.
Yeah.
Sort of a fresh iteration that's totally your own. I think it's
Yeah. Yeah.
marvelous. And as you've just described, it's not easy. It's not like you just. I mean, I'm thinking of other transcriptions of pieces that the composers slash transcribers play with. They extend, they condense, they play with. So it's not really the original piece at all. And yet, of course, you hear the original piece through and through. So it's a very interesting piece of craft work, I think. So
Yeah.
congratulations to you on Moonlight Rhapsody and elsewhere, where you clearly hear you know, your the brand, if you will, the
Yeah.
brand to,
Okay.
but you also then you can enjoy the free. It's almost written improvisation, you know, moments in the sense that it's just a whole new piece, so it's very very much worth praising. So I
Thank
salute
you.
you again
Appreciate.
for, on the turn of a dare. Well, why don't you go out and compose it? And you did, and apparently it's been nonstop ever since, because this CD is 2013, 14, 15, 16, and already you're working on your third. What I mean. I think you mentioned somewhere in the program notes, I just can't stop.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Yeah. But what I like about composing is that it gives you freedom. When you were playing the other composers' pieces, you were limited. You had to follow their instructions, like I said, if you can, if I may
Yes,
say,
yes.
use all the dynamics and use their like the feelings how the composer wanted to interpret it. But when you write your own music, you have total freedom, and it gives me really a pleasure to sort of have this kind of opportunity to express myself in whatever way I want to express, and it's very
And
fascinating.
by the way, some of these stringencies, I would say, from my own youth in terms of my training, I'm thinking of so many young, wonderful pianists and composers and so on these days, in their 30s, they freely, without apology, improvise. I'm thinking of Satie, some of the piano pieces, Gymnopédie of Satie.
Yeah,
I,
yes,
I have
yes.
a recording, a wonderful German pianist, and he doesn't make any excuses. He doesn't chit chat about it. He just freely improvises this piece
Yeah,
and makes it better in so many ways. I mean, it's marvelous how we've gotten past some of these um, taboos, shall we say? Where
yeah, yeah.
it's wonderful to be so much freer. Tell me a little bit about Dorset. Tell me about that, because so many people. I'm looking at Abbotsbury Gardens, and you suggested the first piece on the CD might be a good entree, the Poundbury for piano trio.
Cranberry is this is my first trio which I created, and uh, I would say this is my favorite trio. And also it has quite interesting background because the region part, the place Pembury, it is adjacent to one of the towns called Dorchester in Dorset, and this is like a, project which His Royal Highness Prince Charles is creating. It's a little town. All the buildings are historic buildings. There are less cars than in or generally in old towns. Quite tranquil place. So if you walk through the town, it's like stepping back through the history, and it has very beautiful and nice atmosphere. And I like everything which is periodic. So I created it in my mind, this melody, and I can visualize those buildings and those little squares and little, like a little park there in Pembury. And I dedicated this piece, and it's been played now several times on
Nice.
classic FM, and I was very, very pleased with the response.
Very, very nice. And I have used the words here that I don't think are offensive. It's your writing on this CD is kind of like salon music.
Maybe.
it speaks to a chamber and to quietness and a slower pace of life. Are you content and happy where you are now?
I I'm very, very content. I'm extremely content. Um, and The only annoying thing is I've got, even when I'm asleep, I constantly have music in my head. That is the downside. And sometimes you want to sleep, but the music is there.
Well,
But it's a amazing feeling,
you have a lot
you,
to
you could live with this, yes.
and it's a small complaint because
Yes.
you have a lot of catching up to do. And moreover, I presume there was a time when when the magic wasn't happening.
Yes.
So
You're absolutely right. It's a magical moment for me, and it's most creative period for me. And you just out of nothing you managing to create something. It's a fascinating.
that and so many other people sharing your music to have your music performed. And again, from the public's point of view, these are so beautiful. You're such a melodist, tremendous melodist. I think we've just about run through everything. What have I forgotten to ask you? You're getting ready to put out a third CD. That's something. In just the past couple 3 years, something maybe 5 or so. All of a sudden, this explosion of energy and creativity and all the rest is fabulous. Anything else you want to speak to before we kind of wind it down?
No, I just want to thank you for this opportunity to meet up with you and to have this wonderful conversation. And
It's a great pleasure, and
it's privileged to be part of your show.
wonderful. Well, I'm also glad, and I hope we can put out. I'm not trying really to sell 5 or 6 more CDs for you. I want people to know about you, and as you know, my audience at performingartsreview.net and also on Facebook, it's a tremendous tool. People love watching these interviews, and I just love all the wonderful human interest stories that I've encountered with so many fabulous artists. So it's mutual. Believe me, I've learned more in my conversations with people than I ever could have as just a kind of local regional music critic, let alone as a conductor. Tamara Konstantin, I want to thank you very much. Your CD is 2019 Naxos release. All of this, how to buy the CD, your website, which is fabulous. I'll have some wonderful videos. I love watching the videos where you sit down and you have your glasses on and you're playing away, and it's flawless. Hello, you're a superb pianist. It's magnificent. So the level is so high. It's always so wonderful to see musicians that can do this. And then just your story is so inspiring, really inspiring. I really want people to understand that you can have what you want.
That's true.
You
You have to
can.
part. Yeah,
Yeah, and you have to make big decisions. But
absolutely.
but whatever is tugging at your heart, chase. That I think is the big message for everybody. I guess I think we've done it. Reverie is the CD, as I mentioned. Music for solo piano and chamber ensemble. Your second of now 3, and I have a feeling there'll be a couple more in the next couple of years. We'll see. Tamara, thanks very much indeed for giving me
Thank
your
you.
evening. It's evening in London, in the UK, although the sun was pretty bright there a half hour or so ago. Thanks much.
Thank you very
See
much.
you. Bye bye.